Hello, BookTube. I mentioned recently that I would like to do more writing-related videos on this channel. In addition to endless book videos and reading-related videos, I'd like to do more writing-related videos. I love the subject. I've taught the subject quite a bit, and I've also urged people for years and years, for decades, to write. I've met some resistance doing that, mainly sprung from one of the most persistent misconceptions that I have ever encountered in the intellectual world. And that is that there are creative people and non-creative people. That is absolutely false. There's no hint of truth to that at all. Everyone's creative. It's a muscle, like anything else. The reason that people say there are creative people and non-creative people is because quite a few people never exercise their creativity. So it looks like they don't have any. But they do. You do. Everybody does. Writing is not a gated community. Anybody can do it. And in my life, I have encountered a lot of resistance to that claim from people, but one of the ways, there are two kinds of writing that in my life I have seen to be right on the borderline. The word that critics and nobody else use would be liminal. There's right on the borderline between people who say there are creative people and the people who say there are non-creative people. There are traditionally two kinds of writing that people do, even if they don't think they're writers, even if they don't think they're creative. And traditionally, in the decades that I've been talking about this subject with captive audiences, those two things have been letter writing and diary keeping. Probably because letter writing has an audience of one, and diary keeping also has an audience of one. So it's not public. Neither one of them feels like a public way to write. And so it doesn't feel like a performance, and so it doesn't feel like it's graded on a performance curve. It's still the same tools. So that those distinctions have always struck me as a little watery. And one of those types of writing, old school correspondence writing where you sit down with a pen and paper and you have to structure your thoughts because you're going to put it in the mail, you're going to send it away. That's vanished. That doesn't exist anymore. Now we have email. And email doesn't necessarily have to have any craft to it. Nobody really expects that, even in a business setting. But that still leaves diary keeping, journal entries, journal keeping, personal writing in a book of you, a book of you. Even the people who most steadfastly believed in my life that they had no ounce of creativity and would not ever dream of writing once upon a time at the beginning of a story, even a lot of those people kept a journal. Everybody should keep a journal. If you don't keep a journal, or if you've only sporadically done it, you should make a point of doing it in 2024. It is wonderful. It is a wonderful process to do. Now, there are a whole bunch of reasons why. Some of them are personal. It helps a lot to organize your thoughts, either at the end of a day or at the beginning of a day about the day before. It helps a lot to pause for a minute, turn off the rest of the world, and write about what's happening to you. Think about what's happening to you. This big thing that happened to me yesterday involved a friend and also a stranger. Took an hour. I've got all sorts of irritations and trailing annoyances about it, but I don't know why, because I haven't sat down and actually thought about what happens. Well, keeping a journal is an excellent way to do that, and that will help you. That you will feel better for doing that. There are also writing-related reasons why it strengthens the creativity muscles that I'm talking about, obviously, because if you start a journal entry, you're not just writing random words. You have a discrete period of time and a discrete set of events that you want to capture in prose, and you don't have all day to do it. That's a writing assignment. It might not seem that way, but that is a writing assignment. You do that for 20 days in a row, those muscles are going to be in significantly better shape than they were when you started. You do that for 20 months in a row, you will have almost all the tools of being a writer. True, you will lack a few of them because you still don't have a large audience. You're still writing. The audience when you're keeping a diary is future you. It's not anybody else. I know there are some schools of diary keeping that don't believe that write as if they were writing for a large audience. They try to capture profundities. They try to be profound in their diaries. It's been my experience that diaries that are written like that, showboaty things like that, are First of all, worthless because they're not honest. And second, short term because no one keeps them up. This has to be you talking to future you. And for future you. It has to be you describing, putting down, pinning down the details of your quotidian daily life for the sake of it and for the insights that you can glean from doing it right then while you're doing it, rather than, these are my thoughts about cosmic love. Trust me. Well, you don't need to trust me. You can take your own life experiences as an example. Future you thinks you're a moron. Okay? If you think about yourself in the past, future you thinks you're a moron. The only people who don't think that way are motivational speakers, who believe they've always been perfect and are just sort of muscularly grappling with being even more perfect and selling more brain juice. Other than that, normal people, future you thinks you're a moron. So you should stop trying to impress future you, okay? Or any people that future you is going to let read this stuff. Trust me, if you write long 5-page diatribes about the philosophical underpinnings of life in your journal, in your diary, future you might show those to a wider audience than just one person, but only to laugh at them. Is that really what you want? Instead, it's really just you writing in your underwear. You writing without self-consciousness. That is the one of the main goals, one of the main benefits of keeping a diary, is that it forces you, it encourages you to grapple with the things that are going on in your mind and codify them, at least a little, codify them, because you're putting them into language. It's been invaluable for me. I've kept a daily journal for a long time, and I love it. I love the experience. I love everything about it. And since I'm not yet 100% clear on what kind of videos I want to make about writing, I thought I would start, at the very least, with the kind of writing that even people who call themselves non-writers do. I thought I would start with that, with a few thoughts about journal keeping and ways to do it in 2024. To start 2024, you could buy yourself a volume, take down an empty notebook, and start now. And keep a journal for this year. I have kept my journals in many different formats over the years, but recently I have fallen in love with blank sketchbook. I don't like keeping a journal on lined paper, and I also don't like keeping a journal on a quarto size, little. I like the bigger size, this size. I tried this out years ago at the behest of a motivational speaker named Kegley. I don't know exactly what the current motivational name of his YouTube channel is. I think once upon a time it was called Refusing to Settle, but it could be Manifesting Success or something like that. I have no idea. I'm pretty sure that if you looked up his name on YouTube, you would find him. A big, handsome galoot of a guy who has charisma to spare and is very heavily into the manifest world of the business of bro business and whatnot, prayer in other words. But periodically over the years he has championed keeping a journal, and he brought to my mind the idea of maybe a larger size journal like this. I tried it out and I love it. Absolutely love it. So I use this, whatever, the form doesn't really matter. It just should be convenient to you. The whole point of keeping a journal is that you should remove all the friction. It should be as smooth and easy and natural a process as is possible, whatever that is. The only thing I would caution you against, of course, is that for most of us, including me, the most frictionless way to keep a journal would be to keep one on your computer. And I would strongly urge you not to do that, not only because you type all day, but also because nothing you do, when you lift up the hood of your laptop or turn on your iPad or fire up your phone, nothing that you do on that device is private. The sooner we all acknowledge that, the better. Nothing is private when you are online. When you are on a device that is even capable of going online, nothing is private. Everything that you do is being duplicated and exported, whether you want it to or not, and whether you know it or not. Better not to give it a chance. Better to just go analog. This is private. But If you absolutely insist on doing it electronically, fine. Then the important thing is to do it. And the important thing is to do it without airs, without artifice. Do it completely naturally. And I would argue, pay a lot of attention to the quotidian details of the day. Your diary is not for thus spoke Zarathustra. Your diary is really not for, I know the 20-something young men between the ages of 18 and 25, they go to their diary in order to be, Marcus Aurelius, but you shouldn't. When you're looking at your older diaries, those of you who maybe haven't kept diaries for a long time might not know this, but when you look at those older diaries, invariably the things you're going to be most interested in are the quotidian things. The dogs in those earlier entries are now long dead. Instead of telling me that you love them, I know that you love them, remind me what they ate. Remind me of the little quirk of personality or a tiny detail of physiognomy that I've forgotten. Remind me of where you used to go for lunch. What was the name of that place? Where was it? How much did it cost? Who did you go with? That sort of thing is invaluable. I would argue do that, and I'll show you a bit of how I do it. So I've got this big journal volume here, and I just put the date on it. I put the date on the spines on the text block so that I don't have to worry about figuring out the date. It's 1 volume per year and 1 page per entry. No 2-page entries, no 3 or 4 page entries, no nothing like that. I love the trash compactor discipline that enforces. You have a page, a blank page. It's a larger page, but you have a page to encapsulate everything that you want to do. If you're a journal keeper in the morning, the world is split between people who do a journal entry in the morning about the previous day, or people who do a journal entry at night about the day that they're now winding down. Regardless, you still have a discrete period of time that you're trying to encapsulate. If you give yourself only a page, you are forced to exercise the muscles that I'm talking about, which are the rudimentary muscles of creativity. You are making language do what you want. A discrete task, a big task that could be done poorly, you are making it do what you want. That's the basis of a lot of so-called creative writing. So that's what I tend to do. We'll do a page here together. I give a blank page like this. The reason that I like these larger sketchbooks and with the blank unlined pages is because I never know what I want to put in here. There'll be the entry, but there might also be, I might want to tape something here if I see a little newspaper ad or a little magazine article, something that will fit on 1 page. I might want to put it there. Just tape it on there. Or I might want to draw something, a sketch of something. If I'm making a journal entry here on the fainting couch, I might want to sketch Frida's face while she's sleeping right there. I want the room to do it. So 1 page per day. What I do is the date up top in a box. The day, the date, the month, the year, the whole of it. I do a whole self-contained thing there. I know the year is already on the volume, but I use that to sort of calm and center my mind, is to put the day, the date, the month, and the year up top there. And then what I tend to do, right below that, I will draw an inset box. And that box is for the quotidia. That box is for what money did I spend in the day? What mail did I get? Specifically, item by item, what mail did I get? Where did I go? What spaces did I go? And it won't be any narrative in this box. Instead, it will just be bulleted items. Just like that. It'll be bulleted items. What did I spend? Where did I go? The quotidian stuff in that box right there. Not only because I do that first, and I do that not only because that also invaluably helps to ground me. You come to your journal, you're flying all over the place, you've got deadlines, you've got people, you've got things to do, places to go. You come to your journal flying all over the place like that, sitting down, drawing a mental breath and giving the date. What am I encapsulating here? Is great for centering you, and then this part also is great for centering you. Because you're going over the things that actually happened in the day. Not only is it great for centering you, but it also frees you. It frees you from needing to narrate all that stuff here. In the rest of, I'll just start writing after this. for the whole rest of the page. And because I have done this, I am freed from doing it here. Here can be commentary on this. So I'm telling future me where I went and what I spent and whatnot. And this is all the rest of it. Because this bullet pointed item list here won't have any, there will never be an entry here that says feeling kind of blah. No, that's for here. This is the skeleton of the day. And then this fleshes out the skeleton. So here would be the weather. Did it snow today? Or rain today? Here would be, did I get caught in it? And what did it feel like? Or what did it look like when I was looking out the window? Or things like that. I find that this division works wonders. This is the skeleton that frees you to put the flesh and bones on it, the flesh and blood on it, and to give texture to it. These are the things that are on my mind. These are the issues that I'm trying to work out. These things are bothering me, or these things are making me happy, or here's what I really think. And keep in mind, it's just for future you. It's not for anybody else. Nobody else. So if you are accustomed to mouthing pieties about, let's say, a coworker or a friend of yours or a relative of yours, if you're accustomed to mouthing pieties about that person, don't do it here. Here's the bald truth about what you think about that person, about that relationship, and where it's changing to. Here is the bald truth of that. That person annoys the crap out of me. And here's why. I couldn't stop noticing the way she eats her food, or I couldn't stop resenting the condescending tone in his voice. Here's where you do that. This is not a place where you continue the ordinary, everyday courtesy PR that we all engage in, that we all should engage in, that we all have to engage in order to make interpersonal connection work. You have to engage in that in your outside world. Let this be the place where you let off that steam before you take it back up again. The one thing you absolutely should not do in your journal is lie. You shouldn't do that anyway, but some lies are courtesy lies. They're social lies. They're necessary. Here, no, absolutely not. Let this be the place where you go for the complete, unvarnished truth about anything, including yourself. Once you start to do this, you will get in the habit of subjecting yourself to that kind of scrutiny, and it's uncomfortable, but it's invigorating. It's invaluable. And that's what I do in my journal. I will ground myself with the date, the time, the month, the day. Then I will make a box for the quotidia of the day, the stuff of the day, and then I will write about it for however long. It can be just. I usually give myself a benchmark that it has to at least be equal with the bottom of the quotidia box. Some days you don't feel like writing a journal entry. I'm not much, and some days I'm pressed for time. But usually it's a whole page. And sometimes I will add stuff at the bottom, illustrations or clippings or whatnot. If it's a larger clipping, another nice thing about these Clark Kegley volumes is that you can just stick the larger clippings in the back of the volume. So that by the end of the year, this thing will be bulging at the seams with all sorts of stuff that I've added throughout the year. And then at the end of the year, you pull out all of that stuff, sift through it, some of it won't be of interest anymore, and then put the rest of it back in the volume, put the volume up on the shelf. So those are just, I didn't know how interesting this would be. Those are some of the ways that I keep a journal. That's the way that I keep a journal. I've been doing this for a long, long time. Really works for me, just some food for thought for you. But no matter how you do it, you should do it in 2024. At the very least, in what will be our year's worth of conversation about writing. Let's start with the kind of writing that we all agree we can all do. It's not true. You actually can do any kind of writing. It's just a muscle. That's all. It just requires exercise. And I mean any kind. I don't mean that you can graduate from writing emails or keeping a diary to writing a short story. You can write an annotated biography of Catherine the Great. The idea that there's some kinds of writing that only some people can do is so pernicious. You should get rid of it and prove it wrong. You could certainly do any kind of writing. It's just a question of exercising the muscles. So I have to figure out a way to become the Jack LaLanne of the writing world for this year, so we can go at those muscles together. I haven't figured out how to do that, but I thought I was given this idea by someone who emailed me. This is a perfect idea to start with, because this is a kind of writing that everybody believes they can do rightly. So do it. If you used to keep a journal and you've lapsed, start for 2024. And if you don't keep one, start for 2024. Figure out what the vessel will be, whether it's a Clark Kegley volume. If I remember, I'll try to leave a link to his channel so I'm mentioning him. And he's the rare brotivational speaker, the Brotube circuit that I like. So I might as well give you an example of that. I might still roast him on Bro Watch one of these days, but because he does recommend books that he doesn't read, which is the cardinal sin of all Brotube channels, is that they recommend books that they don't read. But he's immensely affable. I'm sure that you'll agree. And whether or not you agree with any of his, manifest me lots of money, God, or whatever, keeping a journal is a wonderful idea that he's on board with, and I am too. So you might not choose this kind of a larger volume. You might want something smaller and more intimate, but definitely do it. Pick your venue if you haven't done this before, and try it, and keep going. Look at it not as a chore, but as a refuge. The one place where no one is watching, where you don't have to kowtow to any expectations at all. You can write exactly what you feel. Of course, I'm not intending to encourage deceit. The point here is that if your reflections in your journal for future you, who's only going to be interested in the truth, if those reflections about the world around you are radically at odds with the way you talk about the world around you to other people in the world around you, obviously that needs to be addressed. But there's no better, more surgical, and more interesting way to learn those divergences than to keep a journal in which you enumerate them. Plus, it's a lot of fun. Those of you who've never kept a journal and don't consider yourselves writers, it's a lot of fun to watch as those writing muscles gradually come under your control, as they will. The more you do them, the more they'll come under your control. There's nothing mystical about them at all. But anyway, just an odd video here about journal keeping. I thought I would start off the writing year that way. But I'll wrap this up for now. Of course, in the comments, I want to hear from all you journal writers, all you journal keepers. I want to hear what your own methods are. That would be wonderful. I'm infinitely nosy about that sort of thing. Do any of you, for instance, keep a journal online, on a tablet or your computer? God help us. I'd love to hear about it. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.